All right, namaste, everybody. Today, we are going to read from the book, What Becomes of the Soul After Death by Swami Sivananda. And today we are going to specifically focus on chapter 2. And we are going to read few of the paragraphs, and basically it will be an interactive session. So we'll go probably a couple of lines at a time, and if you have any questions, please ask so that we can understand, right? Without understanding, there's no point in moving forward. So chapter 2 of this book is on soul's journey after death. The jiva, or the individual soul, along with pranas, the mind, and the senses, leave his former body and obtains a new body. He takes with himself avidya, virtues, and vicious actions, and the impressions left by his previous birth. So here we can see that when a soul leaves, he doesn't just live with himself alone, right? He lives with his pranas, the mind, and the senses. Okay? So let's read further. Just as a caterpillar takes hold of another object before it leaves its hold of an object, so also the soul has the vision of the body to come before it leaves the present body, right? So when the soul leaves this body, the soul has the vision of the next body, right? How do we understand this? So through our desires, we know what we want to gain out of this life. All of those desires, its impression gets into the soul, and the soul determines what I want to become in my next life, right? So this material will kind of become dry in the beginning, but stay with me, okay? And any question you have, feel free to ask.
So, Mama, does the person who's departing, they know already what's going to happen, or like if it's already decided like what I want to be, like are they aware of that, or that's just happening unconsciously?
So it could be all. For example, somebody who is very conscious, that person can visualize what his or her next birth could be, right?
Oh, okay.
Somebody who is not very conscious, then he or she would know what would become to her or him on the next birth. But like things like a singer, right? They could be bathroom singer in this life. And if they keep practicing, they really like singing, definitely the next birth, that person could become a singer, right? Something like that. So that's how it's continuation of your desires into the next life, right? Therefore, it says, soul along with the pranas, the mind and the senses leave his former body, right? So yes. Any question?
No, that's good.
Okay. Hence, the view of the Sankhya philosophy, that the self and the organs are both all-pervading, and when obtaining a new body, only begin to function in it on account of karma, right? The view of the Buddhas that the soul alone without organ begins to function in a new body, new senses being formed like a new body, or the view of the Vaisikas that the mind alone goes to the new body, and the view of the Digambaras, Jains, that the soul only flies away from the old body and alights on the way on the new body, one just as a parrot flies from one tree to another, are not correct and are opposed to the Vedas. The soul goes from the body accompanied by the mind, prana, the senses, and the sukshma bhutas, or the elements. So all this paragraph talks about is that the three other philosophies that say that only soul departs and everything else is left here is incorrect.
Right.
Right? You have to take your mind with it. You have to take your mind with it, your senses with it, right? And all the elements with it together. There are 19 elements, right? So all of those things goes with you. So if you have a desire to drink, for example, you're taking that in your taste element, right?
Mhm.
So that taste element of drinking habit will get recreated in your next birth, right? So if you had taste for certain type of food, right, that desire will continue in the next life. And any of those things. These are just few examples.
What
So,
if someone doesn't have a desire?
what if someone doesn't have a desire? Then that's a good question. That's a state of moksha. Somebody who reaches that stage is entitled to a moksha. But we'll get there, so stay with me, right? The soul takes with it the subtle parts of the elements. Yes. Yeah, Samir, you had a question?
No, go ahead. No question.
Okay. The soul takes with it the subtle parts of the elements, which are the seeds of the new body. All the elements accompany the soul. All right? That's very clear. When he departs, the chief prana departs after him, and when the prana thus departs, all the other pranas depart after him. So the first, when the prana departs, all other pranas depart with him. So here it talks about the 5 pranas, right? The prana, the vyana, samana, udana, apana, right? Those 5 circulatory system, right? So those 5 pranas also depart. They cannot stay without the basis or substratum or support of the elements. So these pranas, right? Vyana, upana, udana, apana, they cannot stay by itself, right? They have to depart. So because they need a substratum to survive. So they also depart. The subtle elements or tanmatras form the basis for moving pranas, right? So here it talks about the tanmatras. What are the tanmatras? So we have 5 senses and there are corresponding elements, right? So we have eyes, then there is something to see like earth, right? Then we have ears to hear and things like that, right? Eyes, ears, taste, and all those things. There are corresponding elements, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, and the space, ether. So these 10 together form the tanmatras, right? So they also depart. So all the tanmatras, 10 of them, they depart along with it. So these are all the things. So the tanmatras, the elements, the mind, and the pranas, they all depart together along with the soul. So any questions so far? So basically, you take everything with it except your physical body. Only the physical body you leave it here. Everything else you take with you. There can be enjoyment only when the prana goes to another body. The essence of the elements is the vehicle of the pranas. Where the elements are, there the organs and pranas are. They are never separated. The soul could not enter into the new body without pranas, right? We all understand that, right? You need a prana for the body to survive, right? Without prana, body cannot survive. So, and for the enjoyment, you need the prana, you need all the elements all together. That's how the whole thing moves together after the death. The pranas and the senses remain at the time of death quite inoperative for an accompanying the departing soul. So the pranas and the senses, they kind of go dormant. Soul is the active part, which is living. Okay? Now here comes the part for Shraddha. The materials like milk, curd, etc. that are offered as oblations in sacrifice assume a subtle form called apurva and attach themselves to the sacrificer. So all these oblations, the milk, curd, they become apurva. What is apurva? Apurva is something that attaches to the something. It joins something, right? So the milk and curd kind of joins together with this whole soul and the prana and the elements and the mind that's living, right? It attaches it. So this is the scientific way of understanding it, right? The Shraddha. The jiva then go enveloped by water, which is supplied by the materials that are offered as oblation in sacrifice. So when we offer this water in the oblation, the jiva is enveloped by the water. The water forming the oblation assumes the subtle form of apurva, envelops the soul and leads them to heaven to receive their rewards. Okay, that's why the water is very important, right? At the time of funeral, we give a lot of water, some things like that. So
this is stuff at the funeral, right?
Yeah, at the funeral.
Right. Okay. Curd and milk and water.
Yes, all of those things that become a apurva. It attaches to the soul, and it helps soul move to the heaven. Those who perform sacrifices give enjoyment to the gods in heaven and rejoice with them. Okay. So in our life, we give a lot of sacrifices, right? Through our karma, we do a lot of sacrifices. We do things for our children, we do things for our brothers, sisters, parents, and things. Those are all sacrifices that we perform. And those sacrifices will result in then we give the enjoyment to gods in heaven, right? So when we go to heaven, we become their servant of gods, right? We serve them in enjoyment. They become serviceable companions to the gods. They contribute to the enjoyment of the gods by their presence and service in that world. They enjoy themselves in the Chandraloka and return to the earth at the end of their store of merit. So Chandraloka is nothing but heaven, what we call it here. And so whoever goes to the heaven, they become an enjoyment for the gods. They become serviceable companions to the gods. They contribute to the enjoyment to the gods. and they live happily in Chandraloka, in heaven, and when their fruits of merit end, they return to earth. So far, so good. Any question?
No, good.
The soul that this. Oh, okay. Let me open a little bit. Where was I here? Okay. The soul that descend from heaven have a remnant of karma which determines their birth. Right? So whatever the soul is descending, they have some remnant of karma that is left. Therefore, they descend. The souls return to the earth by the force of some enjoined remnants of karma. When the totality of works which helped the souls to go to the Chandraloka for the enjoyment of the fruits of good deeds is exhausted, then the body made up of water, which has originated there from the sake of enjoyment, is dissolved by the fire of sorrow springing from the thought that the enjoyment has come to an end. So the moment the soul knows that it's time to depart, the sorrow comes, right? That the enjoyment has come to an end, now the suffering begins. That's all that verse says. Just as the hailstones melt by contact with the rays of sun, just as the ghee melts by the contact with fire, then the soul comes down with the remainder yet left.
So for how long soul stays in heaven?
Yeah, I have read a few places it can remain as high as like 10,000 years.
Okay.
I have read quite a few places that it says it can live.
Does it depend on anything like your karma or your good deeds, or what determines?
Yes, I think that, store of karma, People, I envision people who have done a lot of good deeds, tremendous number of good deeds, they'll probably live longer than some who may not have the store of merit. Remember, the idea is store of merits, right? How much you have. And when the store is empty, you depart. So it may not be exactly 10,000 years for everybody, but varying degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after 10,000 years, let's say, where does the soul goes back?
Yeah.
It returns to earth.
Descend to earth based on their karma.
Yeah. It descends back for the remnant of karma, right? Now, why did you go to heaven? Because you perform so much sacrifices, right? So all these sacrifices that you perform are good merits, and therefore you are rewarded for these merits. Now, you enjoy in heaven, your karma gets exhausted, right? Your reward gets subtracted, exhausted. So you have few left. That's when you depart. And those few left is enough to have another birth, right? So, any other question? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, stay with me. This is quite fascinating sometimes. So, we read in the Chandogya Upanishad 107, those whose conduct during the previous life has been good presently obtain good birth, such as the birth of a Brahmin, a Kshatriya, or a Vaishya. Those whose conduct has been bad presently obtain some evil birth, such as that of a dog or pig. So this is the returning part, right? Returning from heaven. What kind of birth you get, right? Now, there's another thing you will have to see, that things are not in continuity, okay? So you have to kind of separate things out. Because it is picked and choose from different places. Like this particular idea is picked up from Chandogya Upanishad, right? Versus this particular idea is from Smriti, right? So you can't say everything, like this particular part may apply to the descending soul, right? But it may also apply to people coming not from Chandraloka, but from other lokas as well, okay? So here next, the Smriti says, the members of the different castes and of the different order of life who are engaged in the works prescribed for them, after leaving this world and enjoying the fruits of their works in the other world, are born again owing to the unenjoyed portion of their rewards in distinguished caste and families with special beauty, longevity, knowledge, conduct, prosperity, comfort, and intelligence. Hence, the soul is born with residual karma. So, this is another idea that author is bringing from Smriti, saying that having soul departed, having then left in heaven, enjoyed their fruits of karma, when they are born again, they are born in distinguished caste and families with special beauty, longevity, and different characteristics, right? For their karma, right? So how beautifully you live here, how beautifully you come back also. And how ugly you live here, how ugly you return to your next life. Some capital scenes like the killing of a Brahmin involves many births, right? So if somebody kills Brahmin, it will involve killing, it will involve many, many births, right? The soul descends by the route by which he went to a certain stage and then by a different route. So this talks about the way you went up, ascend, is pretty similar way you descend. The sinners do not go to Chandraloka, right? They go to Yamaloka or the world of punishment. And after having experienced the result of their evil deeds, come down to the earth. Okay, so this is for people who went to different paths. People who didn't go to Chandraloka, right?
Mm-hmm.
They go to Yamaloka for punishment. Hells are places of torture for the evildoers. The temporary abodes are Raurava, Maharaurava, Vahini, Vaitrani, and Kumbhika. These are the temporary abodes of hell. Two other eternal hell are Tamshira, the darkness, and the Andhatamshira, blinding darkness. Those are two permanent abode of hell. Now, I don't know whether temporary meaning they get created and destroyed and the permanent remains, or does the permanent hell mean people who goes in these two eternal hell ever remains there forever? I'm not sure. I don't know what that means. It could be that they are destined there and they remain there forever. The seven hells are superintended by Chitragupta and others, right? Chitragupta Chopra apne kahiye chiye, right? Yama is the chief ruler in those seven hells also. So Yama is a ruler of Yamaloka, which is a little bit different than hell. He is also chief ruler of hell, seven hells. Chitragupta and others are only superintendents and lieutenants employed by Yama. They are all under Yama's government and suzerainty. Chitragupta and others are directed by Yama. Now there's an interesting place called third place. The Shruti says that those who do not go by the means of Vidya, along with the path of Devayana to Brahmaloka, or by means of karma, along with the path of Pitrayana to Chandraloka, are born often in low bodies and die often. The evildoers go to the third place, Tritiyam Sthanam. Got the idea? So there are two paths it describes. The one is a Devayana, one is a Pitrayana. And it says those who do not go to one of them, they go to this third place called Tritiyam Sthanam. And Shruti passage says, now those who go along neither of these ways become those small creatures, flies, worms, etc., continuously returning, of whom it may be said, live and die. There is the third place. So here is an inference from Shruti, right? So the third place is basically what they call 84 lakh yonis, something like that.
Yeah. 84 lakh, yeah.
Yeah. Where you go and become insects and worms and ganads and things like that. The sinners are called small creatures because they assume the bodies of insects, ganads, etc. Their place is called the third place because it is neither Brahmaloka nor the Chandraloka. So how many places we have heard of so far? Want to recollect?
Chandraloka,
Chandraloka,
Tritiyam Sthanam,
Tritiyam Sthanam, the third place,
and Yamloka, right?
and Yamaloka, and then hell, 7 hells,
Right.
and then Brahmaloka and the Chandraloka. Pitrayana is Chandraloka. The Brahmaloka is Devayana. So, but the primaries are 3: the Brahmaloka, Chandraloka,
Chandraloka, Yam.
and the third place is all
Okay.
Yamaloka. Yamaloka is, I think, just for treatment, where they go, they open up their karmas and whatever, right? Get treatment. So they go to hell or in one of those third place, right? Okay. Let's read further. There's quite a bit of material. The souls return the way they went, to the ether, from the ether to air. Then the sacrifices, having become air, becomes smoke. Having become smoke, he becomes mist. Having become mist, he becomes cloud. Having become cloud, he rains down. The souls do not attain identity with ether, air, rain, etc. They become only like ether, air, etc. They become ether and air and rain, right? They assume a subtle form like ether, come under the influence or power of air and get mixed or connected with the smoke, etc. The soul passes through them quickly, right? So through this ether and air and smoke and mist and the rain, the soul passes through them quickly. I still envision probably several weeks easily. Having become cloud, he then rains down. Then he is born as a rice, corn, herb, tree, sesame, and beans, etc. From them, the escape is beset with the most difficulties. For whoever the person may be, who eats the food and begets offspring, he henceforth becomes like unto them. This is from Chandogya Upanishad 10. The soul's journey through the stages of the ether, air, vapor, or smoke, mist, cloud, and rain takes shorter time than its passing through the stages of corn, semen, fetus, which takes a much longer time of hard suffering. So this is soul's transmigration, okay? What this is describing, soul's descent, how does the soul enter, how does the soul take birth? Naradiya Purana says, yeah, question, Samit?
No.
Yeah. Naradiya Purana says, he who has begun to descend will end the mother's womb before a year passes since starting, though wandering through different places. So figure about less than a year it will take for soul before it enters into the womb, right? Mother's womb. So, you know, you figure the crop, the season, right? And many other, and then storage and all those things. Now you can become quite creative, I mean, you're thinking, right? But it's a difficult journey, transmigration of soul. The souls are merely connected with rice and plants, which are already animated by the other souls and do not enjoy their pleasure and pains. They become connected with those plants. The souls use the rice and plants as their halting station without being identified with them. They do not lose their identity, right? So they are there, but they are not there. You cannot find soul in a corn, for example, right? Because they do not identify as separate. Chandogya Upanishad declares, whoever eats, yeah, Samit?
No, Mama, good.
Okay. Chandogya Upanishad declares, whoever eats the food and performs the act of generation, that again the soul gets connected with one who performs the act of generation. The descending soul becomes again that food and that semen. The soul remains in him in copulation only till he enters into the mother's womb with the semen injected. He has a touch with the seminal fluid created by eating such grains and ultimately attains a body in the womb. He attains a fully developed human body in the womb of the mother, which is fit for experiencing the fruits of the remainder of works. The family in which he is to be born, is regulated by the nature of the remainder as mentioned in the Chandogya Upanishad 10.7. Of these, those whose conduct here has been good will quickly attain good births, the birth of a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya. But those whose conduct here has been bad will quickly attain an evil birth of a dog or a hog or a Chandala. Any question here so far? So this is again for your marriage, right? When you return, the birth you get will be according to your merit.
So the merit thing is still like,
yeah,
valid. I mean, it's caste, and sometimes we talk about that's all like made up thing, right? The whole.
Yeah. So the Brahmin, you don't take Brahmin as a literally, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
okay.
we could be
Yeah,
Brahmin by studying the material.
Right. Okay. Okay. Makes sense.
And somebody is born as a Brahmin, but he
Does the
could be
bad stuff.
working as a Kshatriya, right? Or he could be doing business, a Vaishya, right? So
Okay. Okay. So by your karma of doing
By-
things, it would be
by
Brahmin.
your tendency, you determine
Okay.
whether you are a Brahmin or Kshatriya or
It's not by the caste where you born,
No.
like how it went in those years.
right now.
Okay.
By your characteristics, right?
Right.
The whole object of teaching this law of incarnation is that you should realize that the Atman or the Absolute alone is the highest place, right? This is the law of incarnation. The object is the attain Atman, right? Absolute place. The Atman alone must be your sole object of quest. You should get disgusted with this world of pain and sorrow and develop dispassion, discrimination, and try earnestly to attain the eternal bliss of the Absolute. O ignorant man, O foolish man, O miserable man, O deluded soul, wake up from your long slumber of ignorance. Open your eyes, develop the four means of salvation, and attain the goal of life. The summum bonum right now. In this very birth, come out of this cage of flesh. You have been long imprisoned in this prison house of body from time immemorial. You have been dwelling in the womb again and again. Cut the knots of avidya and soar high in the realms of eternal bliss. Very loud and very clear, right? So let's summarize. This is a stopping point, and there is another couple of paragraphs. So what are your thoughts comes to your mind? What have you heard so far? If you have any comments, if you have any question.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the journey, right, is, and I actually had read the book, right? So it has a lot more depth to it, like what happens, like each prana that goes out, right? One
Yeah.
after other, and how it relates to your senses. Like, things, example, like once person died, right? After 3 days, you still see their hairs are growing, right? So
Yeah.
that whole sequencing, it still makes sense. But then after, everything is done here. And
Yeah.
then in between here to heaven or whatever hell, wherever they're going, right?
Mhm.
That whole fog and smoke and all that, I think that's just like not so much clear what time, how much time. And
Yeah.
then we're saying after 1 year they can be born back, but again we say, like, if you had a good deeds, then you will stay in the heaven. So
Yeah.
why would you come in 1 year, right? So those kind
Right.
of thing is still like a bit confusing.
So I think there are certain things. So path to Chandraloka, right?
Mhm.
It's very clear that you're not returning very fast, right? You
Right.
could be living 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years there, right? So if you go to Chandraloka, you're there for a long time. You're not returning. If you go to at the Yamaloka, things get decided, right? Chitragupta opens up the book and looks at it and where you're going, kind of, right?
Mhm.
Now, one thing that I'm not sure is whether everybody goes to Chitraloka, at least the people who are going to destined for Chandraloka, are they going to Yamaloka? I'm not sure. I think it comes a little later.
Mhm.
But clearly there is a path for evildoers and sinners, and that's a path of hell. And in there, I think there is a lot of other material there. where you're given a body, right? Because to punish, you need a body, right? You can't
Right.
punish the soul. So even in hell, they give a temporary body. And they punish you, they torture you, right? Because of all the evil things that you did there. But then even after all the torture, eventually you return. Along with that, there is also somewhere that hasn't come in here, but I have read somewhere that there is a path where you go there, you get treatment, and you return right away. Right? There is such a path. But in any case, if you look at soul's journey, by the time soul comes to the womb, it's about a year, right? Less than a year, probably, close to a year, right? And then by the time you take birth, another 9 months, right? Maybe let's say you take, another 9 months, right? So nobody goes there from here. You know, people say, oh, he died right now, and next second he's born somewhere else. No, that doesn't
Right.
happen, right?
Right. I guess minimum 1 year is what it is.
More than a year, at least 2 years, I would say.
2 years, yeah, right.
Because 1 year it takes, or maybe less than a year, by the time soul goes to mother's womb. And soul doesn't transmigrate. Soul doesn't come into womb just like that, right? Drop in and take a birth, right? It's not like that. And we know that, right? So if somebody is saying, oh, you die here and in next 5 minutes you're gonna born here, no. You have to go
Right.
through all this treatment. Everybody has to go through this treatment. And it's a hellish. The next few paragraph makes it quite clear about it. Any other?
Yes, I think so I think on the last 10-15 minutes, I don't know, it will be addressed in the next one, but where does the moksha stands here, right?
Yeah.
Not going through all these kind of
Yeah,
things, getting out of this
addresses.
cycle.
Yeah, it addresses that. So let's address
Okay.
that. Moksha, Ekta, Gopi, you guys have any question?
I have a lot of questions.
No?
I do, but I'll ask you later.
Gopi, आवाज बहुत अच्छा आवे. I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I'll ask you later. I have a lot of questions.
Give one or two, whatever. That's fine. Go ahead.
For example, at Chandraloka,
Mhm.
it is considered as a swarg.
Right.
So we have 14 lokas.
Mhm.
And upper 7 lokas are considered as the swarg loka,
Mhm.
and the lower 7 lokas are patal lokas.
Right.
So for example, there is one lok which is Janaloka, Satyaloka, Bhuvar Loka,
Yeah.
all those different lokas,
Mhm.
and all those different lokas has different kind of souls living there.
Mhm.
So how can we get to the other lokas? What if we don't want to go to Swarg lokas? What do we have to do?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So first of all, we don't have a choice. We don't want to go to Swargloka, right? So,
But
so once we die, we don't have any control where we are headed. Right? That's for sure.
I understand. But for example, where is that? Hold on. Hold on a second.
But what we do now impacts that, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
isn't it? Yeah.
So I think Bansriben is trying to say is that what do you do, or how do you really determine that this is what you need to do in your presence, right, in this world, for you to go to certain stage or certain lokas, right? So that's probably her question is.
So
And also the other question is, I read that aaj 7 lokas share, સ્વર્ગ લોકાસ. એમાંથી one of the lokas where rishis move, but જે મહારિષિસ ને એ લોકો હોય,
Yeah. So
they stay there. So
yeah.
how do they, what person need to do to become rishi, so they don't have to go to swarg loka, they can go to that particular loka where only rishis stay,
Right. Yeah.
and
So
they don't have to come back to the earth.
right. No, that's good. That's a very good point. And some of these things clears in the next chapter, but do you want to wait and maybe we can address that?
Yeah.
It'll become a little bit more clear.
Hmm.
Let's wait till then, and I will address every question that you have. So I'm going to skip all of this material and jump to this particular path, right? There are only 2-3 paragraphs that we're gonna read. 2 paths, Devyana and Pitrayana, right? So let's read this, and things will become a little bit more clear, not completely, little more clear. So the Uttar Marg, or the Devyana path, or the northern path, or the path of light, is the path by which the yogins go to Brahma. So you have to look at the north, right? Like for me, I'm looking at Wisconsin, Canada, towards that, right? That's it. That's the northern part. And we look at Florida or Brazil, something like that. That's the southern part, right? Okay. So this path leads to salvation. Okay. This path takes the devotee to Brahmaloka. Having reached the path of the gods, which is the Brahmaloka, he comes to the world of Agni. He comes to the world of Agni, the world of Vayu, the world of Varuna, to the world of Indra, to the world of Prajapati, and to the world of Brahma, the Brahmaloka. So this is how the northern path goes, right? Who does the soul meet in the middle, right? They go to light, from light to day, from day to the waxing half of the moon, from the waxing half of the moon to the 6th month, when the sun goes to the north, from those 6 months to the year, from the year to the Aditya, to the sun. Aditya is sun. When the person goes away from this world, he comes to Vayu, then Vayu makes a room for him like the hole of a wheel, and through it, he mounts higher till he comes to Aditya. So think about how this journey is, right? So this is journey to the northern, to the light, and from the daylight, right? From the waxing half of the moon and so forth, and the first half, from Uttarayan time, when the sun goes to north or whatever. This is that journey. And the journey is through Vayu. So think of like a tornado, right? In tornado, the wind is spinning very high, and in the wind there is a hole. And the soul speeds up through that hole, through the wind, ejects into the Aditya, all the way to Aditya. It's a very fast journey, right? Super fast journey. But still, it takes time, right? It's not like instant. Because it still says, I think it probably still takes about a year or so. No, I'm not sure. I'll have to think. From the moon to the lightning, there is a person, not a man, Amanav Purusha, who leads him to Brahma. So from the moon where he reaches the moon, I think this path goes to Chandra Loka also. The moon is where, and it says somewhere where he meets gods, right? Having reached the path of gods, right? Which is primarily heaven. So it goes through, I believe, through heaven, through then sun, the Aditya, and then continues the journey to Brahma, right? The bright path is the path to the Devas, Devayana of the devotees. The bright path is open to devotees. So in this path, nobody returns, okay? This is one-way path. So this kind of Gopi may give an idea of, so if you look at the northern path, so the other way to look at it is 7 realms up in the northern hemisphere of our Brahmaloka, right? Brahmanda. Brahmanda is like Brahma's end, right? Brahma's end. In which there are 7 realms above in the northern and 7 realms below. So Earth is Bhuloka. Next is Bhuvar Loka, which is called ether or Antarix. Then the Bhuvar Swara, Swarga Loka. This is the Chandra Loka, right? So Bhuvas, Om Bhuvas, Bhuvar Loka. Then
Maharloka.
Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and the Brahman, and the Brahman, and the Brahmaloka, right? So I suppose that there is probably a path from Brahmaloka to the devotees. I'm not sure if there is a path from, I mean, from Chandraloka to Brahmaloka. I'm not sure if there is such a path. I think the people are either destined to Chandraloka or you're destined to Brahmaloka. If you're destined to Brahmaloka, you might just traverse, continue. But let's read the southern path. I think that will also make things more clear. The path of darkness, Pitrayana, right? This is where I think we do more Sraddha and all those things for Pitraloka. For our Pitrus. The Pitrayana path or the path of darkness or the path of ancestors leads to rebirth. Those who do sacrifices to gods and other charitable works with the expectation of fruits go to Chandraloka through this path and come back to this world when their fruits of karmas are exhausted. Okay? So this will become a little bit more clear. So who goes to this path? Any of us who do the sacrifices to the gods, right? And then we do charitable, but the charity with expectation, right? If you do charity without expectation, then that's a path for Brahmaloka. But if you do charitable work with an expectation of fruits, you have to enjoy your fruits, right? Because you expected fruits. So your rewards are in heaven, right? There are smoke and dark colored objects throughout the course. There is no illumination when one passes along this path. It is reached by avidya or ignorance. Hence, it is called the path of darkness or smoke. The dark path is to the Pitris or the forefathers, Pitrayana, or the Karmins who do sacrifices or charitable acts with expectation of fruits. So this is a path going through Florida, through Brazil, and it's a very dark path. And it's a path of avidya. So whoever are going there don't know how to go there, right? So, but how do they reach there? So there is a bunch of people all following each other, right? And there is a chain of people, and they follow each other in a darkness, in a smoke. They just continue because others are going there. And that's how their journey is. There is no light. They have no knowledge. It's all avidya. And but there is a, you can see others going there, and you just continue in their journey. You just keep going with it. That path will take you to Chandraloka, Swarga. These two paths are not open to the whole world. Okay? The bright path is open to the devotees, and the dark path to the Karmins, right? The Karma Yogis. Not the Karma Yogis, no. Karmins. See, it says Karmins, not Karma Yogi. Karma Yogis are detached. They do not expect the fruits of their charitable work, right? Therefore, Karma Yogis go to Brahmaloka. Karmins, people who do karma and expect fruits of their karma, they go to Chandraloka. Samsara is eternal, and so the paths are also eternal, right? So both paths are eternal. They never vanish. They never cease to exist or anything like that. The pranas of the Jivanmuktas who have attained knowledge of the self do not depart. Okay? They are absorbed in the Brahman. The Jivanmuktas who attain Kaivalya Moksha or immediate salvation have no place to go or return from. They become one with the all-pervading Brahman. So Jivanmuktas, the one who has attained the knowledge of the self, they do not depart. They do not go to Brahmaloka. They do not go to Chandraloka. They merge with the Paramatma, all-pervading Paramatma. Simple and quick path. Knowing the nature of the two paths and the consequences they lead to, the yogi never loses his discrimination. The yogi who knows that the path of Devayana or the path of light leads to the moksha, karma mukti, and the path of darkness to samsara or the world of birth and death is no longer deluded. Knowledge of these two paths serve as a compass or beacon light to guide the yogi's steps at every moment. So the yogis know the consequences of these two paths, right? So he never loses the discrimination. He knows that the path of Devayana or the path of light leads to moksha, karma mukti, but it's a karma mukti. So here, this, yeah, no, definitely. The path of Devayana goes to the moksha. But remember the difference between this path and Jivanmukta, right? So the Jivanmukta merges with Brahma while here directly. They do not travel. This path of moksha goes through all seven realms, right? Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swargloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapayoloka to Brahmaloka. So it's a longer path, but one can reach there. Okay. And the other one is the path of darkness, is the path of samsara. Even though you go to heaven, you still go through the cycle of birth and death, right? So in a bottom line, we have to focus on two paths, either Jivanmukta or the Devayana. Those are the two paths. So Gopi, your question now. So let me answer one of them, right? So the seven realms are, Brahmaloka is at the very top, right? So Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka is the ether or Antarix. Its ether path is somewhere where there are a lot of souls either ascending soul or descending soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the ether. That's where there are innumerable number of souls. If there exist, they are up in the air. Even Pisach, right? The Bhut Pisach, they live in their realm, suspended. It's kind of suspended realm, right? Then the path is the Chandraloka, the heaven, and then going further is Maharloka. Now, what is the Maharloka for? You said something.
Hold on.
Then the path of Janaloka. These are all further and further doing more on meditation side, right? So you purify yourself further and further. You still have, some sort of desires or whatever to purify. Therefore, you go through this path. You're reaching there eventually to Brahmaloka.
Okay.
Now, the bottom path are the Athala, Vithala, Suthala, Tirthala, Mahathala, and Pathala. I think those are the some. If I'm not sure if I gave the order correctly. But now, those are the hellish realm, right? The one he talks about the hell, for the evil and sinners, and Yama is the prime ruler of those 7 realms in South. I believe that most of us Hindus, most of the Hindus, we are going to, and I'm saying Hindus, right? Not just our family, but Hindus. We are destined to go to Chandraloka. Good portion of them, majority of them. There are some sinner who would go to other realm, because we always have this knowledge of karma, right? Hindus have pretty good knowledge of karma. So majority of them are meeting our ancestors, right? We do all this Shraddha and all those things.
So Mama, what's the reason for doing the Shraddha? How does it help?
Shraddha, yeah. We didn't cover that, but it's in there. I'm going to forward you this book.
Okay.
It says something like, remember on 13th day you give umbrella, right?
Yeah,
so this path of darkness, right, is very tough path, right? So sometimes there is so much heat and sunlight, right? So if you give them umbrella, then they get a little bit easier in the path, right? You give them chapel, right? Shoes. So if you don't give them shoes, they're walking without them on thorn and tough places, right? So it becomes easier. So those are the things you do for them on the 13th day. But you keep doing this Shraddha every year, because by doing it, you give your ancestors a blessings, a support, and you keep them in good place, right? By doing this act, you make sure you ensure that they are in good place, right? They feel good, right? They remain good there.
Okay.
Those who do not do this, they are doing a significant damage to their ancestor. That's what they are saying. And they're saying don't even worry about like you didn't do for several years. Do it now, right? So to help your ancestors, right? And so forth. That's why you do all those things.
Are you passing on good deeds while you're doing that, Mama? So how are we helping them?
Yeah. Definitely, I think by doing all the charitable work and by doing all these deeds, I don't know scientific way, but by remembering them, you're helping them, right? By remembering them in their good deeds, what they have done, you're basically giving them, putting them in a good way, not in a harm's way. Like if we forget there, right? For example, in here, if we have a family and one person leaves and we forget them, right? Or that person forgets their parents or whatever, right? Harm is to both way, right? If one
Right.
child leaves, for example, right? They're harming the parents and the brothers they are left, right? Because they are remembering them. And same thing, the person who left, they are also not by not remembering their parents and siblings, you're harming yourself too, right? So same way, I think they say that by remaining there, they are always connected with us, right? They can see us. While we cannot see from this place, but they can see us from their place, right? So by them seeing us, if we do good deeds, for example, they'll be happy, for example, right?
Mhm.
So those are the kind of things. That's why they say on the time of Shraddha, you do some sacrifices, you do some gifting, right? To Brahmins and charities and things like that, right? So when you do the charity, they'll feel good. Oh, my son is doing his charity work. He's living in good life, right? Things like that. So even living a good life, for example, here, our ancestors will feel good about us. And by just them feeling good about us, they'll feel good, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Like if we have our son doing good things, we feel good, right? We feel proud. Yeah.
Right.
Just same, I think that the relationship just continues. And ancestor meaning both sides, okay? Maternal and paternal, both ancestors.
We don't do Shraddha.
We should do Shraddha.
In Jainism, they don't do Shraddha.
Yeah, and in Jainism, yeah.
Yeah.
Jainism has, it's a different philosophy. It's more on
Yeah.
karma based.
They have a
Right.
different philosophy, but we should do it.
Yeah.
But they don't believe in it.
No, I think for Jainism, if you follow them, you never get moksha. Because what they say is every single karma you will have to return to earth, right? Every single karma you have to take a bath, and you cannot stop doing karma. That
Mhm.
means you are never ending cycle. What they don't have is a detachment of karma. That's what they don't have.
Mhm.
They don't have they don't have this, right? Doing charitable work without expectation of fruits. They don't have that concept. They will never say, if you do charitable work without expectation of fruits, you will go to moksha, you will attain moksha. They will never say that. They will say, for every karma you do, you have to bear its fruit. And when all the karma fruits are exhausted, then and only then you get moksha. Now, you can never exhaust all karma, right?
Even the sadhvis?
Even the sadhvis, that's what they do, but you're walking on insects and so forth. The
Mhm.
whole path is wrong, I'm telling you. The whole path is wrong. Therefore, you see fewer and fewer followers of Jainism. They're shrinking. Because you cannot stop doing the karma. You're walking and you're doing, and even, for example, you're teaching somebody, right?
Mhm.
You're teaching your philosophy. You
I
will
don't have
have
deeper knowledge on
your...
that.
Hmm?
I don't have deeper knowledge. I never read a book or anything.
Yeah. No, but let's say you take a Jain sadhvi, right? And you're giving this course, right? You're doing karma. You're doing karma. You're helping others. That's karma. You have to bear the fruits. You have to take a birth.
Hmm.
I have had this discussion with my Jain friends. So
Ah,
This is
yeah,
first time I'm hearing this.
and they have such a thing called Keval Gyan, which is somewhat similar to the Keval Gyan that was mentioned.
Keval Gyan, I heard about it. Yes.
Yeah, they mentioned the Keval Gyan. But maybe the person who explained to me, he said he was pretty good, but I have read their material, heard few discourses, and that's what I got out of them. They're heavily on karma. So, but anyway, let's focus on this. Any other thoughts? I think the path should be pretty clear, right? Where we are headed, where we are going, what we need to do.
Right.
So what do we need to do to get the moksha? Everybody should know this by now, right? Copy?
Yes.
What do we need to know?
Hold on. I was reading something else.
Charitable works without expectation.
Yes, there you
That
go.
is true.
Do your karma without attachments to fruits. Detach yourself. Detach. Get
So I
this.
have a question now. Hold on.
Yeah.
Or I'll forget my question.
Okay.
So when people say they go with God,
Mhm.
like, they go to Krishna's house or whatever,
Mhm.
where do they actually go?
Yeah. So I know that somebody was going to ask this question. And as we can see from this material so far, this is from Upanishad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Upanishad, when they were written, way back then, there was not so much practice of bhakti yoga, right? In all this material, you never heard anything, right?
Yeah.
You saw there were some devotees, right? Devotion, but they were all yogins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was this before Krishna even maybe, right?
No. The Upanishads were written in recent time, after
Oh.
Krishna. After Krishna, yeah.
Oh,
But so the bhakti yoga came in recent time, right? And it basically started with the four acharyas, the Vallabhacharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanuj, Nimbark, and then the fifth one, Sri
Shankaracharya?
Krishna Chaitanya.
Shankaracharya.
Shankaracharya?
No, Shankaracharya is not bhakti. Vallabhacharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanuj, and Nimbark. And then fifth one was Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and then Kansyam Maharaj, right? Swaminarayan Samstha. These are primarily bhakti path, that you could say.
Mama,
they are all recent time.
Mama, kai yoga? What
Bhakti
kind of yoga?
Bhakti yoga.
Bhakti yoga.
Yeah. See, અત્યારે જે પૂજા જે થાય છે, right? We go to temples and all those things. These are all recent time. In modern times happened, right? 4, 5, I don't know, 700 years, maybe a little bit more. I don't have the exact number, but these are all recent time. Acharya, they revived the bhakti yoga. Otherwise, in the Puranas, in the Upanishads, there is no bhakti yoga everywhere, anywhere. It's all pretty much Advaita philosophy, pretty much, with some notion of devotion and things like that. So somewhere I think I read, so instead of putting a place like, okay, well, you go to Vaikuntha, I would rather say, if you are a devotee of Krishna, you meet Krishna wherever he is. his abode, right? If you are a devotee of Sahajanand Swami, then you meet him. That's what I would say. But you can see that among this, but they are all within the Brahmanda, okay? So they are not beyond Brahman. They are all within Brahman. Because Brahman, the Brahmaloka is the highest for us, right? For our system. At least from within us, we don't go outside Brahman. We don't have a need to go outside Brahman, right?
So there are more than one Brahmans.
There are more than one Brahman, yes.
And there are more than one Brahmas, because each Brahman has a Brahma.
Each Brahman has a Brahma, yeah. Sahasra Brahmanda, right? There are 1,000 Brahmans. And Lord Vishnu enters in each one of them. He takes 1,000 forms and he enters in each one of them, right? You might have seen some pictures somewhere. And each Brahman is kind of like a galaxy. Or even more. Yeah, maybe more like a galaxy. Yeah. All right. Any other question, Gopi?
Lot of questions. We'll discuss again.
Well, go ahead. Jatin has joined. I see Jatin.
I might have to start writing my questions because I have a lot of questions and I forget.
Right question and then share.
Yeah.
Yes, I do watch a lot of videos
No,
for
that's good.
our ancient
Yeah.
God history and stuff.
Yeah. I think.
Mama, this is the link, right? I think I had the link too. If you can
Yeah.
share the link.
Yeah, I'll share the link. Yeah. I'll just say things at the last that to become a yogi, it is not a difficult path. We have to reduce the complexity and come to a simple term with ourselves. And if we just focus on our karma and doing the karma without the expectation of fruits, right? If we just do that, that alone will get you to moksha. That alone will get you the moksha. And even through that, you can become a Jivanmukta, moksha before death, right? So make it simple. Yogis are simple. They do not believe in complexity. So make it simple. Pick up one concept, right? In Bhagavad Gita, there are probably 100 different ways of achieving moksha, not just one, right? In the whole of Bhagavad Gita. And you don't have to know all of them. You don't have to know 2 of them to attain moksha. You only have to know one of them and practice it completely on that one. And you attain moksha. We are already there, right? We are pretty close. You're not too far. We just have to clear up our mind and devote ourselves to the purpose of life, right?